G'day YouTube, Turbo Tristan here. Welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be diving into the engine swap and where we're up to. Well, g'day everyone, welcome back to the channel. One thing I noticed from watching back my last couple of videos recently is that I was shouting a lot, and I'm very sorry for that. I don't know why, I just get excited, get passionate and speak loud and clear and try to get my message across. So I'm going to do my very best to not yell so much in the videos, but making heaps and heaps of progress on the EF behind me there. So at the end of the last video, you would have seen that I had this bad boy out. It was all nice and clean and pressure washed. Silly me tried to rattle gun off the pulley on the power steering pump and it shot fluid all over itself again. So I've got to wash that. We've got the D16 Y8 here ready to go. This one's got 150,000 kilometers on it. So still relatively low Ks considering its age. Some parts came in. I've dressed up the valve cover so that it looks like the original factory one. Gone with the wrinkle black finish on there. Again, my style, just out of a rattle can. So we got some extractors. They're a two-piece set from eBay. They'll definitely do the job. You know, we've got it all apart. We may as well put some good new parts on there and get a little bit more grunt out of it while we're going. I need to get a custom power steering line made up for the EK power steering pump, or EJ8, which is what this one came out of. But otherwise, you can see straight off the bat that the D16 obviously is a bigger engine compared to the D15, and it gets that by extra stroke, so it's extra tall compared to this one. What I found with the engine mounts is I couldn't use any of the original ones. I had to go and find some EG D15 injected engine mounts, and they actually bolted straight on to the gearbox and to the engine side of this one. We're going to use the factory mount on the back because that will go in with the factory mount here. Now I've still got to finish dressing the engine, but I wanted to do something exciting, get a good thumbnail and show you guys where we're up to. I've got to put the new Dizzy O-ring on, distributor O-ring, put the starter motor back in, get the oil filter changed, put a new thermostat in, get a new power steering belt. I'm also going to clean up the injectors, just de-gunk those and clean all that out. We have all the parts laid out here. So there's the old brake conversion. We're getting rid of this bottom brace here, which is where there was a factory engine mount on the front of the engine. That's going. We're getting some traction bars installed in the front, which will replace that bar and give us some adjustability to also get some traction, because we're going to have a little bit of extra power now. So we're definitely going to need that kind of adjustability with the traction bars. Also, we've got the two gear shift linkages down here. We're going to mix and match those, get them situated in the car. So no dramas there. We've got new drive shafts to go in. They're sitting over behind me. But yeah, let's just compare these engines for a sec. At first glance, most things are pretty similar. Obviously, you've got the dual carb setup. This guy was blowing tons and tons of smoke and using oil, using fuel, so not fuel efficient, using oil. Just thought I would share the reasoning behind this swap. No, it's not a K swap. No, it's not a B18 or a B20 LS engine or anything massive like that, but we're going to get a decent bump, 30 kilowatt bump in power. We're going to get fuel economy, drivability, heaps more torque, VTECs. We're also going to modernize the car and bring it up to the late 2000s. Now, to highlight that difference in power, I actually Googled it. I checked on car sales. Now the D15, approximately, because I'm not sure exactly what this model makes, but we're around about 63 kilowatts at 6,000 RPM and 125 Newton meters of torque. Breathless. The D16 Y8 VTEC engine has 93 kilowatts at 6,600 RPM. So a little bit higher RPM, it's making its peak power. This one, as we all know, revs out to almost 8,000 or just a little bit over if you really want to push it. And we've also got 145 Newton meters of torque. So big upgrade, exactly 30 kilowatts and exactly 20 Newton meters. Now that the car's dry, You can see the engine bay in this thing is pretty tidy. There's no scuffs, scratches, or anything like that. I've already gone ahead and mounted the wiring loom, so that's already fed into the car. I've got to make some kind of a mount or bracket for the ECU to fit, but that's pretty much ready to go in. Next on the list is I've got to get under the dash, pull out the pedal box, work out what I'm going to do about the clutch. There might be some welding or trimming involved. I've got a set of pedals down there. My face is probably bright red and I've probably got dust all over me. I've had to take the seat out, the steering column out, some of the heating ducts out, just to get to this one bolt right up here, which was above everything. But the entire guts is ripped out of the car. So I'm going to take that one bolt out and pull the whole pedal assembly out, sit it next to the other one. It may mean that I might need to go and get an EG pedal box as well and compare the three of them. Who knows? But it's most likely going to be another trip to the wreckers this weekend. But I'll get this out, sit them up side by side, check it all out, see if I can't make the EK1 fit here or add bits on, take bits off. We'll see what we're working with. But essentially what I need to do is find a way to mount the clutch master cylinder on the firewall there and mount it up to the pedal. So whenever you push the pedal, it pushes the master cylinder, pushing the slave cylinder, pushing the clutch in. So we've got to figure out how to get that done. We've got a kit, we've got some braided line, I've got the reservoir, so I'll need to make a bracket for where the reservoir is going to go, set all that up. Still a long way to go. We're not out of the woods yet. So late last night, I had a bit of a win with the fuel tanks down there, fixed up the fuel pump. I'll jump to that clip and I'll show you where we're up to just after. Some more midnight motors on the EF Civic, but I've managed to get the fuel tank out, empty everything out, give the car another good clean underneath. I've unplugged everything. I've disconnected all the lines. This is where the fuel fill up point is. It drains from the filler point here straight into the tank right here. On an EK and an EG, you sort of fill the tank from here somewhere, sort of comes down and fills up the tank around about here. So I was going to just run some pipe from here to here, and it was probably, gravity might have worked against me. It probably would have been frustrating to fill up. It would have been click, click, on, off at the fuel pump. But I came up with a solution. So this is the factory fuel pump from an EK Civic. What I did was I removed the factory fuel pump out of its cradle and its little position here. And then I went over to the fuel tank from the EF. Now I've already done all the work here, so you can see that there, but I'm just going to explain what I did. So to convert an EF Civic to EFI, so EFI, is really, really simple. There's actually a template already pressed into the fuel tank exactly with a raised bit here. And I saw it and I thought, that looks exactly like the same size and pattern and everything as the fuel pump carrier cradle in later model Civics. So I grabbed the fuel pump cradle, measured it up. Yep, same size. Yep, there's the same diameter there. I then got the fuel cradle, measured it beside the tank to make sure it was long enough to reach to the bottom of the tank. And then I just went to work with the grinder, cut this piece out here. And then I got my nutsert rivet gun and I riveted in some M6 bolts all the way around with some nice stainless steel cap head screws. Gave the tank a full clean out, pressure wash. This tank's in really, really good condition. This is the piece I took out, so absolutely no rust at all. I just cut that straight off, came out in 5 minutes. That was done. So there's a couple of advantages of doing it that way is you can just bolt this straight in. I'm gonna use the wires and all the plugs and everything from the EK Civic because we're running an EJ wiring loom anyway, so I'll have to figure out a way to get power and a relay to this. We can use the EFI hardware there. I've put a brand new fuel pump on there, new hose, new clamps, redone the wiring, so that's all sweet. The fuel pump actually came from Premier Auto Trade. These are the guys that bring in Raceworks stuff, so you know it's good quality. Everything bolted up, so that's ready to go in. And just like this, although I'm not going to keep it in there tonight, I'm not going to bolt it down. So it's just a matter of taking your fuel pump, poking that down through there like so, and then lining up all of those nice, fresh, tasty nutserts, and then bolting it down. Means it's nice and easy, access to the wiring just there. The fuel lines, I'm just going to run straight down here, straight along here, and then to the bottom of the car, and then I'm going to go to some metal hard lines. But that couldn't have been easier. I wish the little ripper buried over there was as easy as that to put a EFI fuel system in. That thing's been a nightmare. That's why it's sitting there and not running, because we don't have something easy to do like this. We had a rusted out tank, and every time I went to weld up holes and things, it just blow more. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that. So that is one job ticked off the list. I'll take that out because I've had some water in there and I've cleaned the fuel tank out. So I'm just going to let that dry out and breathe for the next day or two. Then I'll assemble all this back in, get it back up in the car, work out what I'm going to do with the wiring, and start to run some fuel lines. So hopefully that all made sense. I was caked in petrol, dirt, grease, grime, the rest of it, and it was late. But basically, in a nutshell, I've gone and replaced the fuel pump, put a brand new one in there, redone the wiring, new hoses, new clips, it's all mounted in, new filter. We're going to use the EK Civic or the EJ8 or EM Civic cradle. We're also going to run a stock brand new fuel pump, which is more than capable of handling the upgrading power and fuel flow. So I've removed that out of here. That went in the tank like that. I've gone over to the stock standard EF pump. I've cut the top out of it, as you would have seen in the video. Used some nutserts to get that all sorted. And now it's just a matter of fitting this up into the fuel tank, and away we go. I'll run some Raceworks lines off here, and I've ordered all of that stuff today. So tomorrow should be good to start running fuel lines. Pretty excited. I'm happy the way this went. So much easier than working on the little ripper. Hopefully everything stays this simple. Fingers crossed, hope I don't jinx it. I'm going to try and do my very, very best to make this look as OE as possible. So original Honda style, just like it is on my EK and other fuel injected ones. We're going to have two lines running up the firewall just next to where the ECU is, with some fittings on there, and then we'll go to some rubber lines for the return and the feed, just so that we can manipulate those around to the fuel rail. But I think that will be a really good solution, and I can't wait to do that. It's my first time. I sort of started doing it with the little ripper, but I used soft lines. I didn't use the hard ones. I used the braided lines that I got with the kit. This will be my first time using hard lines. I got some really nice anodized Raceworks fittings that hold the lines in up against the chassis. So we're going to nutsert those, mount those in all nice as well. So very, very excited to run all that. I think, you know, I've learned so much on this project already, and it's just keeps getting better and better. I know I'm going to get stuck on the wiring and all the electrical side of thing. That is not my forte at all, but the mounting up, the mechanical stuff, if I really, really wanted to, I could shove the engine in now, put the drive shafts in, do the linkages and everything, but it's best to do all this sort of stuff, such as the clutch and running all the wiring and all that now while the engine is out. So I'm going to get stuck into that. It's enough blabbing. I'm going to do a bit of work, show you where I get up to. Like a lot of things in the Honda world, things just swap over. Things can be pulled out of one model and stuck into another model. A lot of Integras and early Civics have the ECU mounted under the carpet behind a kick plate here, so you can pretty much stomp on that all day long. Super strong. and the ECUs mounted out of the road because they didn't have very big dashes. Iverson. So they tuck it under the carpet, under the floor, and for some reason, someone in the comments can let me know, but this is an ECU out of a carbureted car. I'm sure it just controls like electronic ignition or something like that, but very simple, very basic. It even has like a little LED light in there, which is really cool. The new ECUs don't have that. But the other cool thing is there's 4 bolts in the floor, and these holes go through there, and then you bolt the panel down on top, and then that's how it's secured to the car. With the new ECU from the D16Y8, we can actually use those holes here, just there and there, to line that up. Now they don't fit on this side, but we'll put the screws through the bottom, holding it up so it won't move around, and put the kick panel back on. I can plug in all the ECU because I've ran all the wires for that. And I may even take out the old loom down there if I can find out where that comes through on the firewall, which one it is. Get rid of that, because as much as we can run of the new stuff, the better, and it's going to clean up all the wiring in the engine bay and just make everything a lot nicer. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and I'll show you when it's done. And just like I bought one, it's all tucked away. If you pull the carpet back, you can see the plates all installed. Now, I didn't really know what I was talking about, because even though those holes lined up when the ECU was out and they were side by side, it actually would have to run lengthways, and the P28 ECU is quite a lot longer than the little electronic ignition one. So I've actually got it sitting sideways like it would if it was factory in an Integra or an EJ8. And the wiring loom comes out here and runs up through some existing holes which are already there. So that's all sweet. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this green plug, which is off the EJ8 loom or the EK loom, is for the dash harness, so all your warning lights and things like that. Pretty sure, so we don't need that one plugged in, I don't think, because we're still retaining the old dash. Don't ask me how we're going to get the speedo to work yet. Not really sure. I'm really not sure what we're going to do with that. We could always run an EK loom, but we're running the EF fuel sender, all that sort of stuff. So we're just going to keep it as it is and see what happens. Haven't really thought that far ahead, and we still got to run all the headlight wiring harness and all that stuff from the EF. So hopefully we can splice them together somehow. If you know how, or you want to help, let me know, because I've got no clue. So it's been a couple of days since I last showed you guys what's been going on, but I've got the fuel tank back up inside the car. I've got the Z200 inline fuel filter there. We've got the Raceworks bracket, and I've got some Raceworks hard lines. These are -6 alloy hard lines. I bent them up myself, put some Raceworks fittings on there, and we got these really awesome, cute little Raceworks brackets, which I've nut-certed or riv-nutted into the base of the car. I'm just waiting for a couple more to show up so I can get the final bit done, but that'll then put that nice and tight up against the base of the car. And then I have the 2 fittings here. One will be a return, one will be a feed, so I'll probably make this the feed, straight in and then back out and return there. So the fuel tank's in. You saw how I did that setup with the fuel pump in there, so that's going to be super OE, super quiet. I've got to figure out the wiring yet on that, and I actually just used an existing hole here and an existing hole here to mount that. So that's nice and serviceable, easily replaceable. It doesn't get in the road of anything, and neither do these. So once I've got those all sorted in their final spot, I can put the fuel tank in for good. I'll probably just run some wires out that I can join up to later on. Next thing crossed off the list is the engine. I've actually put a new rocker cover gasket on that. That's another rocker cover which I've taken off and painted in wrinkle black. Just needs a clean because it's got a bit of dust on it. This is the other one that I had on there the other day. Turned out there was a crack underneath. Headers are on. Change the spark plugs, they're already done. We've put the Dizzy on, new Dizzy O-ring, so brand new genuine O-ring from Elusive. Leads are on. I'm not expecting the timing to be right, but we'll muck around with that once we get it all sorted. I've given the injectors a little bit of a clean with some Scotch-Brite pad. I've turned them around so they're now upside down, and I've actually modified the rail so that we can do a wire tuck and hide all the wiring underneath there and then run it out of the road. So that's pretty cool. I'm pretty proud of that. When the engine turned up, just due to transport, it actually had a broken TPS, so I've replaced that. All the engine mounts are on, ready to go in. So these ones I sourced from the junkyard. They're pretty much brand new. So got lucky there. They're all on. I've replaced the slave cylinder down here for the hydraulic clutch system. So we're swapping from cable to hydraulic. And I also had to go and make a bracket. Now I've done that here all off camera, and using the existing pedal, I've given that a quick paint with some black enamel and made a bracket. I've gusseted it all up so it's really, really strong. It's just 3mm mild steel. When you push on the pedal, I'll try and do that with one hand. So when you push on the pedal with your foot, it actuates the hydraulic clutch. Push on the pedal and it pushes the piston in, pumping the fluid in and down to the slave cylinder. So this is the master. This is the one that's telling it what to do. That's the slave. It does what it's told. And then you've got your line that feeds the extra fluid in. So pretty simple. I've got to figure out a space on where I'm going to mount this yet. It's got to obviously be higher than this point so that it drains. The other one doesn't matter so much because it's just going to be pumping itself under hydraulic pressure, so it can be any which way. I'm going to put the return spring back on so there's a bit more feel on the clutch pedal and it pulls itself back to its original position. But yeah, I didn't end up using the EK setup. We're going to stick with the OEM. I watched a few videos and watched people making these, and I figured I'd give it a go myself, so I did, and it worked. So I'm very, very proud of that. It's sure not the prettiest, but it will definitely do the job. With this gusset here and the gussets on the inside, there's no need for the extra bracing that goes down here. I found I would have to make this much larger and it'd be too fiddly to make a different bracket down there that would not get in the road of the pedal, because the pedal's got a funny kink in it. So I just gusseted this and braced it really, really strong, so it's not going to move. So I'm very happy with that. That's going to work. I've also done a swap over. I'm probably going to do the brake valve. So this is the distribution or proportioning valve system in the brakes for an EK, because I've gone over here and already installed an EK brake master cylinder, which is in really good condition. I managed to find an almost brand new low K perfect condition one at the wreckers. So I've given it a clean up. I'll just need to remove this guy here and then bend the lines to where they need to go. They're pretty easy to bend, so that should be sweet. Just down here is the old master cylinder. It's seen better days, as you can see there, and I'm sure it's older technology. It's smaller and fatter, so we're just gonna ditch that. Put the new one in. The space was already there, so it's gonna fit perfectly. Why not? It was cheap at the wreckers, so we decided to slam it in. You've already seen that I've mounted the ECU. We've got a lot done in this video. I've just been working really, really hard after hours, late at night after my normal job, just to get this stuff done for you guys and for the owner of the car. And to be honest, I haven't filmed a lot. Like I mentioned in the last video, my missus has been helping me quite a bit off camera, and I've just been getting bits done and showing you the progress afterwards. Now, I know you'd like to see me do more stuff and how I do it. I just really needed to work and get it all done, guys. Sorry. I'll also make more of an effort to try not to yell into the camera. I watched Mighty Car Mods recently and Moog was screaming at the camera. It was really hard to watch. I watched a couple of my videos back and I was yelling in the camera, and I was just thinking, man, why am I yelling so loud? The quality of the audio is really clear. So I'm just using a GoPro. There's no external mics. One day that'll happen. But for now, I'll just try and talk normally, get the point across, share my knowledge. Hope you guys are enjoying the EF/ED content. I'm trying really hard to get the car back together for the new owner. I'm really excited to put the engine in, which is what you'll see on the next video. I've been learning plenty about these cars. Like I mentioned, I've never worked on one before, but they're fairly easy. A lot of things cross over between all models. So I'm learning a lot. Hopefully you guys are as well. It's not just the same old EK content all the time. I also wanted to give a shout out to anyone who's watching from Chile. The owner of this car is from Chile himself. He's new to Australia, and I know that he's been sharing this content with all of his friends back home. So if you're from Chile, make sure you drop a flag in the comments below so I know where you're from. Anyway, it's time for bed. Good night. See you in the next one.